Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So here we are. Good morning to everyone. And today is Saturday, 10th of December. Let's start our study today with a quick prayer. Father that art in heaven, here we are once again, together in your name, trying to understand a little bit better what mediumship is, what it can do for us and to others. Learning how to use mediumship to be used as charity and only charity, and give us perhaps the answers we are looking for so long. Be with us today and always. Well, let me share with you guys the book. Just minimize here so I can read. Okay. Here we are. Today we are starting on the point 11. And the first question will be, can anyone who sees a spirit talk to it? Certainly. And that is exactly what should be done in such a case. Ask the spirit who it is, what it wants, and what can be done for it. If it is unhappy and suffering, showing sympathy will bring a relief. If it is a benevolent spirit, he may intend to offer good advice. In such a cases, how will the spirit respond? Sometimes by articulating sounds as a living person would, but usually by transmitting its thoughts. That perhaps is my lack of English, but when I see someone referring to the spirit as a it, I normally use him or her. I don't see a spirit as a it, but that's possibly my own limitation. And I don't think we can generalize as everyone can see spirits, because we know already that mediumship is something organic, that is something related specifically to a person. But the people that have that ability, have that characteristic, that organic characteristic, will be able to see spirits. And quite often, people get scared. Is it normal? Yes, it is. Everything different, everything new, we may be scared of. But assuming we pass that phase where everything is new and we start to be familiar with spirits, then if we see a spirit, must be a reason for it. Could be a wake-up call, could be someone we love asking for something or trying to help us. Nevertheless, we have here the response from the spirit telling us that if we ask something, chances are that we'll have an answer. So let's move to the next one. Do spirits who appear to have wings really have them, or are they only a symbolic appearance? Let's see the answer and then we can comment afterwards. Spirits do not have wings. They do not need them, since as a spirit they can go anywhere. But they appear in this form in order to impress the person to whom they show themselves. Some appears wearing their normal clothing, others in drapery, and some with wings, as a characterization of the spiritual category they are representing. Why do we need to see a spirit with wings? Well, basically, understanding that we've been reincarnating for so long, and every time we reincarnate, chances are that we profess a different creed. Possibly, we already profess the Catholicism. Possibly, we came even before that, where angels were the must. Angels had wings. And when we talk about angels, that's what's coming to our mind, right? I personally understand that answer, that the spirit may come with a wing to be represented like that. But understanding that the perispirit is connected cell by cell with our physical body, probably is a hard work for the spirit to try to appear with wings, you know, or at least I don't think it's something that comes straight away. But most of the time, the spirits will appear the way they were on earth. It's also fair to say that the spirit may appear without the human appearance, right? But that's another thing. Item 13. Are the persons we see while dreaming always who they appear to be? They are almost always the same one. Your spirit goes to meet them, or they come to meet you. I think that is straight clear, right? And bear in mind, if you want to make any question, any comment, just open your mic and do so. All right? You're more than welcome. Hi, Evelyn.
Good morning, everyone. I have a question about dreams, seeing other spirits on the dream. If I have a dream with 3 people, we're sitting around a table talking, would those other 2 people remember that dream? Remember me talking to them in that dream?
Ebony, I don't think we can have a rule to who remember what, right? I think goes case by case. But take into account that we understand that all of us, when we are sleeping, we can go to different places and we can meet one another. It's very possible that a person may remember at least part of it. Well, I had a dream with you last night. Oh, I had as well, you know? But they do not know details of it. They do not, if you make questions, they perhaps are not able to describe what they were doing. But they can also describe the same location or the same activity. And perhaps you had a third person that will not remember. So it depends on the characteristics of the person. It depends of the reason to allow them to remember as well. Because I don't particularly believe you remember everything. No one does. But when you do remember something, it's because there is a need for it. It's not like by hazard. It's not by chance. You know, I truly believe there is a reason when we remember what we have dreamed of, Because there is a difference between what we dream, and there is a difference of recollection of what we did when we were sleeping, right? A dream makes no sense at all. You see an elephant with wings flying above your head. Well, very unlikely an elephant will have wings, you know. But when you do remember actions, place you have been doing, right, good things or bad things, chances are this is not just a dream. This is you in an excursion when your physical body were asleep, right? But I don't believe there is a rule of thumb that we can generalize for every situation. And I advocate that every situation involving any mediumship or spiritist phenomena has to be thoroughly evaluated, because it's not because what happens with me that will happen exactly the same with you, and vice versa. So we have to evaluate everything before we come to a conclusion. All right? But this question 13, when we dream, do we always see the person as they appear to be? I don't think so. When we are in our body, flesh and bone, we believe that we are 100% what we are in flesh and bone. But sometimes when we are detached from our physical body, our true self is a bit different. There is a record in one, I don't recall which book it was, but one person that was a beautiful person, and she was really into that beauty thing, like, you know, doing cosmetics all the time, surgeries to keep up with the age and things like that. And she was really pretty. But every time when she was sleeping and her spirit were detaching from the physical body, her appearance was totally different, was more like the opposite. Because despite that her physical body was a beauty, her spirit was not. So, yeah, most of the time when we are detached from a physical body, or even when we pass away, we possibly will have exactly the same appearance as we had when we were incarnated. But again, this is not a rule of thumb. We may have different scenarios. All right.
Gil, it's Christine.
Hi, Christine.
Hi. Can you have an outline of a figure, of a spirit?
I'm not sure I understood. What do you mean with that?
Well, when my mother passed away that night, I saw it wasn't her full features that I saw. It was just the outline, and I thought, that's my mother. It's yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, could be. Could be. Could happen like that as well. But I believe it's more like your ability to see than how she is represented herself. Okay? Mediumship has different degrees. If you're learning, you see something. If you have like 20 years practice, chances are you see something more in detail, in high definition, if you like, you know? And possibly there was your own ability to that perception. But doesn't mean that she's only the outline. She's not only the outline, she's whole. But your perception was like that. Hi, Munir.
Oh, hi, good morning, everyone. I was going to say more or less what you've just said. That we have two sides: how the spirit presents him or herself, and how we perceive that presence. And sometimes, talking now about dreams, we may see the person more clearly in our dream. But then in the wake state, we should remember we have a brain, and the brain has to accommodate, has to interpret the experience that the spirit went through. And it varies a lot under so many different circumstances. Sometimes we remember very vividly the dream, and sometimes it's just a vague memory. Oh yeah, I had the impression I dreamt last night and I saw such and such a person. So there's the two sides, you know, what we can retain from the experience, what we experience in itself, and how the spirit presents itself to us.
Munir, something that came to my mind when we were speaking is that I guess that by far Brazil has more information about the spiritual world than any other country in regards to the spiritism, by the amount of the books, by the amount of the practice over there. But we don't have many information about dreams. And even the other day I was talking during another meeting that I remember only one book speaking about, spiritist book, speaking about dreams. So this is something that's still very cloud for us. We don't have much information as such, right? If you go to the psychology side, if you go to the shrink side, you know, that is a different thing. But on the spiritist library, if you like, I remember only one book, and I think I have that book back in Brazil, but there isn't many source of information for it. Do you remember anything else, Munir?
Now, I remember in one of the spirits book, I think it's either the medium's book or the spirits book, where it's been said that basically we can divide into two types of dreams. The natural dreams, which is a process of digesting the experiences we had during the day, and the other ones are actually experience that when the spirit is free in the spirit world, the experience that we bring back. But we shouldn't forget we have a machine, the brain, and everything has to go through our brain in a natural process of accommodating the information. Unless we are medium, then special cases, people who has the experience out of the body, where they clearly perceive, although there's also a limitation to that. It's not all 100% that perception, but you know, they retain that in a clear way. We can say in real time, the experience, whereas for us, sometimes, depending on the natural process of sleep, we may retain more or less of that experience, but dreams are very complex, I would say. Kardec says you have natural dreams, the natural process of your brain digesting what your day has been. Usually, if we have a very strong experience during the day, that will come to our mind during the night in a dream. It will come back, it stays very strong in us, but also we sometimes mix with experiences we've had in the spiritual world, and things don't make much sense, because we can accommodate, we can interpret everything as it is. It's just a big soup, and with different ingredients. That's what our brain does when we wake up and start to remember, what we experienced during the night. But certainly we've had many experiences during the night, normally, and sometimes they are mixed with our daily experience.
Mm-hmm. I think that Yasmin, she has a question for you. Go on, Yasmin.
I'm sorry, it was not a question. And I was just trying to look back in the Spirit's book about that. When I asked the question to another friend last year, because I asked him, how do I know if what's happening in my dreams are real or not? And he told me, yes, of course, as you mentioned, Munir, there are just two types of dreams, but he mentioned another one, which are memories from past lives. And I was like, but how? And that's why I wanted to have a look at the Spirit's book right now, to check this information, because I can't remember exactly. And yes, basically to know if it's our life in the spiritual world. He told me that if that's the case, we can act, we can choose our actions, we can make decisions apparently. So that's all the information I could remember right now. I'm going to have a look at the Spirit's book.
Cool. Yasmin, something that came to my mind when you said about glances of past lives. This is a bit different, right? Normally, when a person have a glance of previous incarnations, that comes very, very strongly. It's not a dream. I just witnessed again something, and quite often it has a purpose. It has a purpose. You just not remember something because, yeah, let me remember something from my past life. No, when you do remember something, is in general because it does have a meaning. It has a meaning for you to pay attention in something today. It's something that will help you today, right? And that's why I'm not very much in favor of people trying to do regression, memory regression, also because we don't know. We are playing with fire with that. I know they are professionals, they are experienced, but me talking, we do not know. We are taking chances. Hi, Ana Paula, go on.
Hi, I'm going to put the video, but don't get scared. I just want to share what I learned doing analytic psychology with spiritist and Jungian psychologist. And it started all my interest when I was studying Joanna de Angelis with Gelson. We have a group of studies. It's very good. And so I got to study a little more of Jung and the way that he sees that explain how the dreams works. And because my psychologist is my therapist psychologist, he is also studious of Joanna de Angelis and spiritist also. He also can explain me better when it happens. The dreams. We talk a lot of dreams because it's one of the way that Jung used to show how to explain, to make us work with the symbols that the inconscious used to talk to us. So it's our self talking to us. And he said that is, and I'm getting with this experience kind of seeing the difference. Talking to him, of course, and we talk about, and kind of in my mind, I know when it can be, and sometimes it happens that I'm telling to him, no, this don't need even to talk because I think I was in somewhere, I was there, so I thought it was some spiritist, perispirit going on around and seeing things. So my life is must be very busy in the night, but what I can see by what my experience and was I learned with Jung is we don't remember much what we do in the night because most of the dreams are our inconscient talking to us, ourselves. Of course, you can get together, you can break together into you remember some of the symbolism of your inconscient talking. But and a little bit of if you did something during the night, but the inconscient talks to us with symbols, so it uses things that have meaning for you to tell you something. So of course, if you are afraid of, you are terrified of a flying or airplane falling or something, you're gonna get that dream. Because so you go with your psychologist and you're gonna say, and he's gonna ask, okay, what does a airplane means for you? What's this fear meaning for you? And the thing is that comes out from you things that you didn't even know you were gonna say because it's the inconscient that comes with feels. So I work a lot of the dreams in my therapy because it's a Jungian way to say, using symbols. and it says when we are sleeping. So it's just to say that much more than you imagine of what you remember. It's not really you being there and doing something, but it's mostly this conversation that is very interesting and it's very useful when you go into this kind of talking with your inconscient. And so I'm sorry, I don't have so much, it's just experience, but it's what I've been learning in my way of dealing
Very
with
good.
those problems. Thank you.
Very good, Ana Paula. And me personally, I do not understand anything at all. And I think there's a group that really tries to understand. And there is also what the professionals' perception are and what the spiritist perception are. And sometimes I think they do a big mix in the same pot and I still don't understand anything. So that's my own limitation. But I think it's an area that in the future will be more available to all of us, because I believe that as we move along, the other researchers, other professionals, other information from the spiritual world will come together and will give us more basis to really develop more about this subject. It's very nice. Thank you, Ana Paula. But there is one thing as well that when Yasmin, you were talking, came to my mind, and we can also create our own dreams with our actions through the day when we are awakened. Why I'm saying that? There's one place called Netflix that has a lot of series that sometimes a person, when start to see their first chapter, will only end when the 13 years of chapters will finish, because it's so addictive. And you start to see, for example, let's say on a Saturday, you wake up, you see the first, on the end of the day, you saw already 2 or 3 seasons and you don't want to go to your bed because you want to see the next one. And then when you are sleeping, you have dreams about you in that context, you as part of what you watch through the day or similar. So our actions through the day, or what we do, or what we choose at least, can also contribute to what we may see as a dream or not. But how that works, I don't have a clue. I'll leave that with Ana Paula for the time being. Thank you, guys.
Live with your inconscience, because normally I would say what understood is that so your inconscience is taking those things that you saw a lot, that you do a lot, and put in a context that try to tell you that. So it's kind of live with each one's conversation, but it's true. It's like I don't know why we are doing this. Must have a reason why we are creating this dream. Yeah, we are creating it. It's just to understand there's the difficulty.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Mudia.
I was just going to say, yes, when I say experience, this is part of our experience. It may not necessarily be a physical experience, but we feed during the day in the wake states, and it stays, as Ana Paula said, in our subconscious. It's everything registered there. Leon Denis is very good. He explains that very well, and that can come out, in dreams or induced by magnetism or, in different processes where you can bring it back, but it's all there. All the experience of the spirit is there. They are there. And they, come out according to, the need or the circumstances. But just one, I don't know if it's 100%, it happens that way most of the time. But Divaldo said once not, many times, he said, you can tell in general terms if it's a dream or not, depending on the colors, the perception you have of the environment. If the color of the sky or the trees or whatever, if the details call your attention, it's most likely an experience you have in the spiritual world. But when it's something that comes back, it's usually just the fact, it's just the scene, the people there, but you don't, the colors, the context doesn't call that much your attention. And I've experienced both, dreams that I remember meeting the person, I don't know exactly where. And if you say, what colors, how was the person dressed? Well, don't remember, but dreams that I remember every single detail, colors, and I could describe or paint if I could do that, paint what I had seen in great detail. It's usually, a way to distinguish, to tell between, one and the other.
Hi, Sandra.
Oh, I think, Glenn, we should go for 14, if I'm not wrong. Have we done 14?
No, you're right. Thank you. Thank you. Couldn't deceptive spirits take on the appearance of someone dear to us in order to mislead us? They take on fantastic appearances, only in order to have fun at your expense. But there are matters that they are not allowed to play with. Bringing that into the equation, someone can clearly say, so we never know who we're talking to. But the appearance is not what is important. The outcome of that communication, the outcome of that image, the outcome of that instruction is what is important. Very unlikely an evil spirit would tell you to do something good. So what is important is what is coming out of that experience. But even so, he's saying here, they are not allowed to do anything they want either. Everything has limits, everything has boundaries. And there's always someone above organizing what can or what cannot be done, and that is like a safety net to all of us. I'm remembering here when in a mediumship meeting, some spirits coming, describing themselves with very unpleasant pictures. Are they like that? Some of them really believe they are. But on the end of the day, they are all equal. We are all equal. But with our choices of clothes, of makeup, of glasses, we change a bit our appearance. So that's what they do. Sometimes even without knowing they are doing. Since thought is a kind of evocation, can we understand that it can induce a spirit to appear? But why is it that the person whom we think about the most and one on whom we most ardently desire to see again almost never appears to us in our dreams, while we often see others who do not interest us in the least and whom we never think about? Interesting question. It is not always possible for the spirit to show themselves visibly when in dreams, and in spite of your desire to see them. Causes apart from their will may prevent them. Besides, it is almost always a trial, which even your most ardent desire cannot avert. As for individuals who do not interest you, it is possible that they are thinking of you, even though you are not thinking of them. Moreover, you have no idea about relationships in the spiritual world, where you might meet up a multitude of close, old, and new acquaintances, whom you have no memory of at all while awake, while awake. So how can someone create a rule about what it is, what is not? It's impossible. There are so many variables, so many situations that can be or cannot be. So when I see someone really saying that is it, okay, good for you. How many of
Hi, Guilherme. Yes, I want to add to that our experience in the spiritual world is not limited to our five senses. Very spirit has more perception of things. And you've mentioned something. Sometimes it's not what we see, but how we perceive what we are seeing. I remember having a dream while once I was traveling. I went to a hotel, and during the night, in the middle of the night, I saw myself adjacent to the room where I was. It looked like a cave. I couldn't see anyone, but I perceived the sensation. It was horrible. It was a place like a cave. But I could perceive, I couldn't see. What I was seeing was an empty place. But the perception I had was tremendously disagreeable. So I wasn't seeing with my eyes, I wasn't hearing with my ears, I wasn't. Sometimes we try just to interpret things from our five senses in the physical body, but it goes beyond that. Sometimes the spirit may appear to us someone very beautiful, very nice, but the perception from the words, from the sensations, the vibration we get from that entity, it leaves something disagreeable, something that says, well, we're not exactly, who he or she is telling us it is. And as you said, there are so many variables, we don't have a final word. We can exchange experiences here and come to a common ground, but a final theory or explanation for that is we are far away from that, actually.
I agree. When there is no means of verifying visions or apparitions, we can almost certainly treat that as being only hallucinations. However, when they are confirmed by circumstances, we cannot attribute them to our imagination. Such are, for example, apparitions at the time of death, while asleep or awake, involving persons whom we had not been thinking about, and who by various signs have come to reveal the absolutely unexpected circumstances of their passing. In such instances, we have seen horses hear up and balk before apparitions that frighten the rider. I'm thinking here, animals, they have a perception. Cats, dogs, horses, they are very sensitive. Imagination may be something that humans are endowed with, but the same cannot be said for animals. Moreover, if the images we see while dreaming are always the results of our waking concerns, that would not explain why we hardly ever dream of matters that we have been thinking about the most. When I was back in Brazil, and we had 3 dogs at home, and from time to time, one of them, especially one, used to bark into a direction of emptiness. There was nothing there. There was no one there. And he was barking like, to the point, sometimes it was very aggressive barking, like trying to protect the owner. And to someone that are not familiar with, could be a bit scary, imagine your dog barking for nothing. Yeah. Why do certain visions happen more frequently during illness? Ooh, that's interesting. They happen just as frequently in the states of perfect health. But during illness, the material ties loosen, and the weakness of the body allows more freedom to the spirit, which then more easily communicate with other spirits. One example for that situation is that when someone is about to go, he's about to die, He see their relatives, they see friends, they see spirits that other people around cannot see. Quite often they mention, well, I saw my daughter, I saw my mom, I saw my brother, whatever, you know, and they're already there on the other side. Why is that? It's because your ties are losing, as they said here. You're already more on the other side than on this side. And it is interesting how things are gradually moving from the material to the spiritual world. And there are many, you can find on the internet, many situations where people that were about to die, they start to mention about their relatives on other things from the spiritual world. Same happens in the experience, near experience of death, when people were basically dying, or they did die, but they returned. When they returned, they mentioned that they could see things that they normally would not see, people that were already on the other side. 17. Spontaneous apparitions seems to occur more often in certain countries. Are the members of some cultures more gifted than others at receiving these manifestations? Oh, that's very interesting, because we have people from different countries here. Have you made a historical registration of every apparition? Apparitions, noises, and all the other manifestation occurs equally all over the world, but they display their own particular characteristics according to the cultures among which they occur. For example, among those where writing is not very widespread, there are no writing mediums. Among others, they abound. Also, among the former manifestation involving noising and movements of objects are more frequent than intelligent communications, which are less appreciated and sought after. So those phenomena, they exist all over the world. There's no difference between country A and B. How we perceive is a different thing. If we are in an environment that people are more into this kind of thing, people are more open to evaluate this kind of phenomena, then it's different, because people will pay more attention. People will recognize that as a possible phenomena, where in other areas they may not, because they do not believe anything exists. They don't believe anything is possible. But the phenomena are equally spread everywhere. Why do apparitions occur more at night? Mightn't it show that they are the effect of silence and darkness upon one's imagination? For the same reason you see the stars at night and not in a full daylight. Intense lighting can eclipse a delicate apparition. Nevertheless, it is wrong to suppose that night has something special about it in this regard. Question those who have seen apparitions, and you will find that most have actually occurred during the day. That comparison between the stars in the sky and a possible spirit nearby us, I think is a very good one. Because depending on the day, we can see stars even in the daylight. It's rare that we can see even planets, when depending on where they are at that particular time of year. But they are more difficult. Let's say that we are in a place with 20 different people. Are we sure we are seeing 20 different incarnated people? Perhaps one of them is not incarnated and you are seeing anyway. I don't know. So it is, I think we always have to have a step back and keep all the possibilities open. Haven't you?
Hi, Guilherme. It was, while you were reading that, you know, it brought back to my mind, you know, one experience that my grandfather had that actually called my attention to spirits for the first time in my life, because I was very young at that time. My grandfather used to take a nap after lunch. And one day, and we used to go to his house in the afternoon, you know, we had the schools in the morning, in the afternoon, we used to spend the afternoon there with my grandparents because my mother was working. And then one afternoon, my grandfather, you know, he went to have a nap, and then soon after he came and you know, he was looking for someone and said, "What happened?" He said, "Well, I was taking a nap and I opened my eyes. Someone was staring at me. Someone I didn't know." So immediately he got up. He said the person left, you know, went outside the room, and then he looked at it. It was a long corridor. There wasn't enough time for the person to go anywhere. And then he looked, he couldn't see anyone there. And then he was really amazed and said, "I saw someone staring at me, you know, while I was waking up, and it was broad daylight." It was broad daylight. So, you know, it happened. It was probably what, 1:30 in the afternoon, you know. And that called my attention, you know, because he used to see, he had sort of a mediumship, you know, developed to a certain degree. And, you know, every now and then he used to see spirits, and then he started going to Spiritist Center, and he called my attention to Spiritism.
Yeah. There are so many different situations where you can be caught in between, and sometimes in that case was more like, well, you cannot deny, you had it in front of you, but there's also scenarios where you just see something like a blur passing through, or you are in your TV room next to your kitchen and you see something, and what is that? You know, it's just something like something moving. You cannot even identify if it was a human being or not, if it was just whatever moving, whatever moving, you know. But it varies from person to person, you know. One thing is, we are never alone, right? So if you're never alone, eventually we'll have a perception, and it's normal. It's normal, very normal. The phenomena of apparition are much more frequent and common than one might think. But many persons do not reveal them either, because they fear being ridiculous, being ridiculized, or because they attribute them to illusion. If they seem to occur more abundantly among certain cultures, it is because such cultures have more carefully preserved the correct or erroneous tradition, which are almost always exaggerated by a fascination for the extraordinary in areas that are more or less disposed to them. Furthermore, credulity sees supernatural effects in most ordinary phenomena: the silence of solitude, the step slope of ravines, the rustles of trees, the roar of storms, the echoes from mountains, the fantastic shape of clouds, shadows, and mirrors. Anything can lend itself to deluding simple and naively imaginative people who are recounting in good faith what they have seen or believe they have seen. Whoever alongside functions, there is reality, and serious study of Spiritism can set people free from the foolish accessories of superstition. Even among the Spiritists, we see, well, you know, that wind that came doing that particular noise is a spirit whistling, like blowing a whistle or something like that. That thing, you know, I think is a spirit. Quite often, it's what we want to see, it's what we want to hear, it's what we believe. That's why I always advocate that everyone must study. And when you are in front of a spiritist phenomena, it's paramount to evaluate that phenomenon. How that happened, what time of the day that happened, how frequently it's happening. For example, I said about the whistle. If I hear that whistle, is there any kid around with a whistle perhaps doing that noise? It's not like a little gap in my window, a little crack in my window where the wind passing through and through different vibrations creates like a whistle noise. You know, we have the duty to eliminate all other possibilities before we jump into conclusions, especially in the beginning when we see everything is marvelous, everything is nice, everything is spirit related. We start to see spirits everywhere doing everything. It's not really like that. So again, let's study, let's evaluate, let's analyze situations. Let's not rush into conclusions. And something that happens very, very often, even in the spiritism, is that people jump into conclusions to say that, oh, you've been obsessed. There's a spirit following you all the way through your day and night. You know, people jump too quickly into conclusions. So if I could say to you guys something that I believe is positive for you today and through your future experiences, is do not jump into conclusions too quickly. Evaluate everything, analyze everything before you made a mistake. Hi, Liz.
Well, I think it's important to remember that, yeah, it's so easy to jump to conclusions without, you know, doing logical explanations first. However, you don't have to worry about missing a spirit if you particularly want to hear one or see one, because if it is important, they will come again, or they will get a message to you somehow.
Yeah, if it is a must,
Yeah.
he'll come back.
Yeah. And the other thing is, when it was talking about illnesses and things, I think we can also put grief and depression in that bracket as well. When you're feeling under the weather, when you're more likely to be able to connect, but also very more likely to imagine that which you wish to see. So it's a double-edged sword.
It is. And we have to remember that our thoughts are very powerful. Very powerful. Our thoughts can even create things that we really want to see, like you said, Liz. Yeah, you're totally right. You know, so you need to be very careful. Once again, how is the best way to evaluate what is not? You know, study the subject, do a research. Don't jump into conclusions. You know, even if someone coming to you and say, I like to say that quite often because I saw that more than once, and I believe this is lack of charity, is that, oh, sorry, but you have obsession case. Don't jump into conclusions. That is possibly this person's perception. If someone comes to you and say something like that, okay, thank you. Let's study about it. Let me speak to other people. Let me try to find resonance of that information elsewhere. Don't jump into conclusions, because I saw people with good intentions creating havoc. Hi, Bonilla.
Hi, Guilherme. I was going to say that in Spiritism, we don't find final answer for everything, you know. What we see is that, you know, the cases are presented, what is more common than whatever, and possible explanations for things. But these offer elements for us to analyze. So we should be, you know, always analyzing what is in front of you. Because sometimes two circumstances that seem to be very similar, they have, you know, completely different reasons behind that or actions behind that. And, yes, I'm totally, I totally agree with you when you say that we shouldn't jump into conclusion. But Spiritism gives us strong elements for us to analyze every single situation. It's always Spirit who is creating these situations. Or, no, spirits never affect me or whatever. No, neither affirmatives. They are right all the time. So that's the important thing. It's not that, oh, okay, now I understand it's always like that. No, we see that the spirits, they leave it open to us. It's normally this, but you may have that and that other situation, which are also possible. Are they also possible? Then in which circumstances? Then they say, well, in circumstances like this, not in this case, it is like that. No, it's never like that in Spiritism.
Munir, something came to my mind. Nowadays, on the Spiritist movement, where we have so many people that believe they are doing good job, publicizing books left and right, defending different perceptions of the same subject with the and that's very positive, by the way. I think it's very positive. But I always return to Kardec. Because sometimes people with a very good will make mistakes, may decide to sell something, and sometimes it's really that the term, to sell, because there are a lot of things publicized just for money, just to make a living. So return to Kardec. There's an answer for everything there. May not be 100% complete, because he himself, he said that things will come to complete. But the answer is there. Every time when I had the opportunity to face something, I thought, well, that's strange, that's a bit weird, well, but the author is very good, has a PhD or is so many years on the Spiritism, but there's something that's not clicking here. There's something weird. I return to Kardec. I will check in Kardec. And sometimes, even to my surprise, what this author were saying was written in Kardec, in a different way, but was written in Kardec. And then I put my mind to rest. But sometimes I also were saying things, well, I think he missed the plot on this one here, So my advice to everyone, regardless of what you read, what you have available to you, because depending on the country, you may not have much, depending on the country, you may have more data available for you. Refrain to Kardec. There's an answer there. You just need to study a little bit and we'll find that answer. It is, yeah. He's the safest information, in my opinion.
Yeah, when I say Spiritism, I mean Kardec. All the rest, I can read other books, and as you said, I can compare to what Kardec offers us, not Kardec, the spirits, because the Spiritism is the result, the collective result of teachings from so many different spirits, around 1,000 spirits brought all these information compiled by Kardec. But they offer elements for us to judge, to analyze everything, including other books written in the name of Spiritism or whatever. Does it make sense? Well, it contradicts the Spirit's book in this and that aspect. So, yeah. But because we have the elements to judge everything, what Kardec is offering us through Spiritism is actually the elements for us to analyze every situation. Perhaps he hadn't experienced certain situations that we may find, in our life, as experience in our life. So, well, if it's not there, the answer clearly stated there. So this can't happen. Or no, he offered the elements for us to go there, analyze this new situation. That's the beauty of it. It's not just circumscribed to the situation that Kardec presented. Some of them are not common to our day now. Turning tables. You don't see turning tables taking place in every corner here. We have a different situation. So Kardec is old-fashioned. No, it's not used. Everything he used, the arguments, the information, and then analyze this new situation. Then you come to a conclusion. It's your conclusion.
Entirely. I totally agree with you. The way I do, Kardec first, any other information received through a serious medium, so that means information from the spiritual world through a medium, and as a third option, source of information, incarnated beings writing about something. So I would go Kardec, I would go information from the spiritual world through serious mediums, and other sources of information. But that's it for today. It is our time now. So I would like to, first, let me stop sharing that here. Let me just say that here. So I would like to thank you a lot to be part of our study and to participate, because that's what makes things as it is. And your participation makes this study way better.
18 people today. It's nice.
Very nice. Very nice. So, Elsa, as you open your mic, can you do our final prayer for today?
Yes, Saul is sleeping. I can do it now. Oh, it's so nice when you have a house full of love and gratitude with all participants, attendees to these studies. That is so important for all of us to clarify our minds, to exchange ideas, and to learn that everything there's a purpose in our life, and everything related to mediumship should be well studied. So we can clarify situations, understanding more that we are surrounded by their witnesses, a testimony of other spirits surrounding us, inspiring us, giving us all the support that we need when we are open our mind to receive the inspiration, instructions in our decisions, so we can really think more about our life, the beauty of our life, our existence, and protect ourselves through it, using prayer, using fraternity, talk with a nice dialogue with each other. All the clarifications that comes towards us are instructions that you should put in practice in our daily life. So, dear Lord, may our blessing be with everyone here in our Zoom room, in our YouTube channel, the ones that will later on listen, watching these studies, this lesson, and we will be together next week under Jesus' names, and together we can do more. So God bless us all, and you will have a wonderful week. Thank you all. Thank you so much. Thank you, our benefactors. So be it. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you very much, you all. Looking forward to see you next week. Have
Thank
a
you all.
great, lovely weekend.
Bye-bye.
Yes.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
God bless.